Hello and welcome back to the Swiss Crypto Podcast. I am Smiles, and in today's episode we are going to talk about a country that hasn't been quite in the news yet when it comes to cryptocurrencies and their regulations. Today we are going to talk about the Netherlands. So stay tuned and let's get into it. The Netherlands. How on earth did that country come to my attention, you probably ask yourselves? Because it is not really the country that we hear that often from when it comes to cryptocurrencies, maybe the adoption of cryptocurrencies, but also the regulation of cryptocurrencies. But in the recent months, starting in the second half of 2019, the government of the Netherlands more and more started to tackle the task of bringing up cryptocurrency regulations. And this was mostly because of the European Union's anti-money laundering directive AMLD5. If you haven't heard of that yet before, the AMLD5 is the anti-money laundering directive, as I said before, and it's the fifth version. Wow, very innovative. But what you have to know is that this AMLD5 version, the fifth version of that anti-money laundering directive, came into place in January 2020, so this year. That means that all countries that are within the European Union have to oblige by these AMLD5 restrictions and laws. That mostly means that they have to collect the Know Your Customer information and that they have to warn the feds if they see any suspicious transaction or if there are transactions that surpass a certain amount of money. If you want to have a closer look at it, you can check it out in a podcast that I made, especially about the AMLD5 in the upper right corner. And you've probably already got it. Today's episode is also about following these AMLD5 restrictions and laws according to the European Union's anti-money laundering directive. And the Netherlands Central Bank, the DNB, has just recently issued an ultimatum to all fiat supporting cryptocurrency service providers to register with the institution by May 18th. So that means in 13 days, basically 2 weeks, all the fiat supporting cryptocurrency service providers have to register with them. So they, the National Central Bank of the Netherlands, can follow these AMLD5 restrictions. Now, I have to say, the news article from where I got most of my information and also the site of the Netherlands Central Bank say that the Dutch Senate's vote was actually for the implementation of the AMLD4. So I'm not really sure for what they voted to implement. I'm pretty sure it's the AMLD5, since the AMLD5 should be in place or is in place since January 2020, and because all the states inside the European Union are required to follow these laws. And that actually is the main point of why I chose today's topic to be about the Netherlands and its connection and state of regulation when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Because following the news report, it says the Netherlands implementing amending act for AMLD4 has already been overdue, missing deadlines earlier this year and prompting the European Commission to issue its own ultimatum to the Dutch legislature. This March, the Dutch Minister of Finance sent a statement to the House of Representatives responding to AMLD5, which raised, among other matters, questions about the administrative burden and costs on smaller companies of complying with the directive. What I want you guys to see here is that the state of each country within the European Union is not the same when it comes to that regulation that they really want to put out to get cryptocurrencies under. Now, from this news story, we get that the Netherlands have already struggled with implementing the AMLD4 and now also don't want to implement the AMLD5 because they are not okay with the terms and conditions that come with it. And that really doesn't speak for the Netherlands when it comes to adoption of cryptocurrencies in the way that we see that legislators are not able to put through an amendment that should be there for clarity about how cryptocurrencies should be handled. And they weren't able to put in that AMLD4, the old one, for a long time, according to this article. And now they also struggle with the AMLD5. And I know from this, it really sounds like the Netherlands aren't really working on that if you just listen to this one news article. But in fact, the Netherlands have been working since the early 2019 on regulations for cryptocurrencies and have been thinking of how they are going to handle this new way of payment or storage of wealth. But they still haven't gotten their stuff together to put out real and clear guidelines for everyone to see what they have to follow with. And I especially find this very important for little and small firms and companies that are growing in the cryptocurrency space right now. I am not a friend of too much regulation, as the AMLD5 is also looking like at the moment, but I think there should be a bit of regulation from the legislators, since they just won't accept it in the economy if they don't have one. So it's just the necessary evil, in my opinion, that we have to accept in some way. But if you are a country that is also big in digital technologies like Switzerland is, like also the Netherlands are, I think it is vital for those small businesses that now come out of the cryptocurrency space, like we have here in Switzerland with the Crypto Valley in Zug, to know what they have to follow with, what they have to give the legislators so they are allowed to take part in the economy, and most importantly, bring the concept of blockchain and also cryptocurrency as a form of payment, as a form of wealth storage to the people in our countries as part of a digital revolution, so to say. So today's essence of this podcast is not only how regulation works in the Netherlands when it comes to the cryptocurrency space, and it's not only how the AMLD5 gets implemented in the European Union. It mostly is that I personally think a lot of companies are depending on the legislators' move to regulate cryptocurrencies in some form so they can keep on working and keep on taking part in our economy. Now, that's already been it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the content I provided. If you did so, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see each other in the next one.